Hello? Am I boring you or are you? I just said that these global companies are already talking to their Nigerian partners and saying, you know what, we want a piece of the cake. I didn't mention the policy group. I forgot to mention the policy group. They are part of the global group I'm talking about. I know for a fact that because multinational clients are shifting more focus on our continent, we must begin to prepare ourselves for the next stage in the area of marketing communications. It might interest you to know that WPP's phenomenal growth came majorly from Asia Pacific and Latin America, the growth that I talked about a few minutes ago. Even if the USA, the UK, Austria, Germany, Switzerland, and Turkey just managed to boost up. I know for a fact that WPP is talking to our own group. In fact, last October, on the 1st of October, specifically, I was at the board meeting of WPP. I had been invited to that board meeting. And Sir Sorrell was pressurizing me about his desire for his company to acquire X% of equity in our business. And I said to Mr. Sorrell, you want to kill him? Why would you in one fell swoop want to come to Nigeria? And we didn't say we wanted to sell. If you are interested in buying, let me give you the terms. But he went on and on. And that is the attitude. And I'm aware that they are talking to a lot of our competitors as well. So to look at this subject holistically, let's start by creating meaning to what this subject is all about. What is marketing communication? And what are the elements that can be said to make up marketing communications today? Everybody knows about advertising. The media, traditional, online, social, mobile, experiential events, consumer engagement platforms, public relations, the consumer. Because the consumer has also strangely have become part of those that we should consider when we're talking about marketing communications. And I can imagine you, some of you saying, consumer, how can that be? I will return to that bit. Because I suspect you are like to ask how the receiver of messages can actually be engaged in the process. Each of the elements mentioned above is fertile ground for radical new thinking that will define our industry. However, to see the future, we must take learnings from the past. So that's why old men like us can also become relevant. In 1980, when Inside Communications opened shop, there was only one national TV network in Nigeria, the NTA, with 2 local channels in Lagos and a body state TV, LTV. In all the states, only NTA stations were in operation. Combined these stations enjoy over 90% reach during their peak years. And at that, communication was likely one-sided. That world no longer exists. But to let you know how simple or how simplistic things were, when we started and we needed to get recognition or get recognized by these media owners so we can place our advertisements with them, it took only a few days to. I sent 2 of my colleagues at the time. I said, look, go and talk to these various media owners. In the north, in the east, in the west. All of that exercise we completed within 4 days. In 4 days. Now you try, and invariably we got the kind of approvals we wanted to trade with them. You try doing that today. If you start a new agency and you want to do business with those media owners, I'm sure the media will tell you how many TV stations there are. I have lost count, I don't know. I think the one thing that we should also be thinking about now is getting a license to start a tracker radio. General Eric Shineski, retired chief of staff of the USM, stated, and I quote, "If you don't like change, you'll like irrelevance even less." The truth is, the world has changed. The language has changed. The pace has also changed. The foundation for tomorrow is here today. And it revolves around one word: communities. Communities have become our social currency because it underpins everything we do as marketers. Communities involve three key components: people, relationships, and context. People come together to form relationships that are built over time and interact regularly around contexts which are of interest to them. Let me repeat that. People come together to form relationships. Boy meets girl. Alright? Relationships that are built over time, so you start toasting each other and build relationships. And interact regularly around context. What are you going to tell me? What will make me like you? What will make you like me? Context. It's not about giving you flowers every day. How can you impact my life? That's the truth. If you can't impact my life positively, I go look for another chick. That's the way it is. The arrival of the digital age has caused a fundamentally huge shift in how people now communicate and relate with one another. On the one hand, and the various ways they go about getting information, sharing ideas, collaborating, and even working together on the other. You know, again, I was watching television in my gym. I was doing my exercise this morning. I was watching the BBC. And there came on this assistant minister of energy in Syria, who was announcing to the world that he was defected. He was going and doing the joint. Before now, to put that information, we would have needed to call a press conference, cameras would come, and somebody just went to his phone, recorded this guy, and put it on Facebook. That was the source. And that has implications for the people in the creative business of marketing communication. Because before now, you may need a whole battery of men who have to make the storyboard, somebody will write a story, and then you get a storyboard, and then you get quotation, and you get a film crew, and they spend forever shooting the commercial. Today, people are sitting down, individuals, they are writing stories, they are shooting the commercials on their. Somebody has been harassing my wife, and recently gave me that. It's my guarantee notebook. You can shoot a commercial on this. I can do everything on this thing here, and I put it in my pocket. And I make one little confession. My granddaughter, when she was about 2.5, I used to see her each time they live in the UK. Each time I went to the UK and they come visiting me, he carries this little thing. I wasn't familiar with the iPad at that time. I must confess. 2.5-year-old girl. And I used to look at this girl and she would touch one button and she would do things. I'm like, so I asked my forget put it on my shit. Oh, daddy, you really don't. Daddy, you but, you know, and then her paternal grandmother was visited. And she was telling her Grandma, you watch me and don't be shy. I'll teach you how to use this. She was 2.5 years at a time. And what did she do? She fired my interest in all of these tiny little gadgets. And that's why I can go around with this thing. And hopefully it is impacting my life. You know, yesterday something happened in the office. And I was so upset. 2 days before that. You know, I slept well and I woke up about 6 o'clock. I said, you know what? I need to send an email to someone. So I just bought this little thing out. And I, you know, sent a beautifully worded mail. By 8 o'clock, they started responding to me with apologies. I said, no, we won't do that again. You know, I would have said to get to the office first to do the mail, but you know, tiny in my bed. I just took it in our family. Your life is incredible. but they will define how this your business is going to work in the future. The arrival of the teacher aid has caused a fundamentally huge shift in how people now communicate and relate with one another. On the one hand, and the various ways they go about getting information, sharing ideas, collaborating, and even working together on the other. Here are some examples of how people actively communicate today. Social media, sure you guys know that. Social networking, crowdsourcing, blogging, microblogging, sharing, commenting, embedding, linking, tagging, posting, rating, participation, and conversation. This simply shows how communication has assumed a multi-dimensional form, and in various ways messages are now being transmitted during social media